Poseidon is one of the three sons of the Titans, Cronus and Rhea, brother to Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Zeus. In the standard account, Cronus swallowed his children at birth to prevent a prophecy that one of them would overthrow him. In many traditions, Poseidon was among those swallowed and later disgorged when Zeus forced Cronus to vomit his offspring. Other early variants report that Rhea hid Poseidon at birth and tricked Cronus by giving him a foal to swallow. In that version, Poseidon was reared in secret, often said by the sea nymph Caphera with the Telchines on Rhodes, until Zeus began the revolt against the Titans. During the Titanomachy, the Cyclopes armed the three brothers, the thunderbolt for Zeus, the trident for Poseidon, and the helm of invisibility for Hades. After the Titans were defeated and imprisoned, the cosmos was apportioned by lot. Zeus received the sky, Poseidon the sea, and Hades the underworld. The earth and Olympus were held in common. From this point, Poseidon's primary domains were the seas and waters, earthquakes and horses. His most common epithets reflect these powers: Earthshaker, Enosigaios, Enosichthon for earthquakes, and Hippios for his association with horses. Greek cities on coasts and capes honored him especially, and myth places his gleaming palace beneath the sea at Aegae, from which he rides in a chariot drawn by seahorses, hippocampoi, and calms or rouses the waves with his trident. Poseidon's principal consort is the Nereid Amphitrite. She at first avoided him and fled to the ocean. The dolphin spirit Delphin persuaded her to return and marry Poseidon, and Poseidon rewarded Delphin with honor, later remembered in cult and constellation lore. With Amphitrite, he fathered the merman herald Triton, and in some accounts, daughters such as Benthesicyme and Rhode. Poseidon, like many Olympian gods, had numerous unions with nymphs and mortals, producing a wide network of heroes and local rulers who traced their founding lines to him. Several of Poseidon's children are central to later myths. With the Gorgon Medusa, an encounter that later traditions describe as occurring in Athena's temple, he fathered Pegasus and Chrysaor. When Perseus cut off Medusa's head, Pegasus and Chrysaor sprang forth from her neck. With Demeter, while she wandered seeking Persephone, Poseidon pursued her. Demeter changed into a mare to escape him, but Poseidon assumed the form of a stallion. From that union came the wondrous horse Arion, and in some traditions a daughter worshipped under the title Despoina. Poseidon also fathered the Cyclops Polyphemus with the sea nymph Thusa. This lineage becomes decisive in the Odyssey. With Tyro, who loved the river Enipeus and whom Poseidon approached in Enipeus's form, he fathered the twins Pelias and Neleus, later kings in Thessaly and Pylos, respectively. With Iphimedea, he fathered the giant Aloadae, Otus and Ephialtes, who attempted to storm Olympus by piling mountains and were killed before they reached their goal. In several genealogies, Orion the Great Hunter is Poseidon's son, which explains Orion's mythical ability to stride across the sea. Other important descendants attributed to Poseidon include founders and dynasts, such as Belus and Agenor, through Libya, anchoring Greek origin stories across the Mediterranean. Poseidon figures repeatedly in inter-Olympian disputes. In the Iliad-era myth cycle, Hera, Athena, and Poseidon once conspired to bind Zeus. The plot failed, and as punishment, Zeus made Poseidon and Apollo serve for a time in the employ of a mortal king. In the version most influential for later stories, they served Laomedon of Troy and built the city's famous walls. When Laomedon refused their wages, Poseidon sent a sea monster against Troy. Laomedon promised his daughter Hesione to anyone who would rescue her. Heracles saved her, but Laomedon again reneged, leading to Heracles' later attack on Troy and the death of Laomedon. This episode supplies Poseidon's enduring hostility to Troy and sets background motives in the Trojan War cycle. Poseidon famously competed with other deities for the patronage of cities. At Athens, he struck the Acropolis with his trident and produced either a salt spring, the Sea of Erechteis, or the first horse. Athena offered the olive tree. The gods judged in Athena's favor, and Athens took her name. Poseidon responded by flooding parts of Attica, but a durable settlement followed in which both deities were honored on the Acropolis, notably in the Erekteion. In Argos, he contested with Hera and lost. In anger, he dried the rivers, but cult arrangements later pacified him and restored water. In Corinth, he divided honors with Helios, receiving the Isthmus, where the Isthmian Games were celebrated in his name. Helios took the Acrocorinth heights. In Trojan, Poseidon and Athena shared patronage amicably, a model of compromise between deities often cited by local tradition. As Earthshaker, Poseidon causes earthquakes by striking the ground with his trident. Greeks attributed sea storms, harbor surges, and sometimes coastal inundations to his wrath. In the myth of Deucalion's flood, a Greek version of a world deluge, Zeus decides to destroy the corrupt Bronze Age humanity. Poseidon aids by unleashing the sea, breaking land and embankments with his trident, while Zeus sends the rains. In historical memory, disasters like the destruction of the city of Helike, swallowed by earthquake and tsunami in the 4th century BCE, were interpreted as signs of Poseidon's power and anger, reinforcing his cult as a deity who must be placated for stability on land and sea. Poseidon's interactions with heroes shape many well-known cycles. On Crete, he sent the magnificent Cretan Bull from the sea to show Minos's right to rule. When Minos failed to sacrifice it properly, the bull became wild and destructive. This failure links to Pasiphae's unnatural desire for the bull and the birth of the Minotaur, an entangled story in which Poseidon's offended honor is one causal root. The bull later appears again in Theseus's labors around Athens. Theseus himself is closely connected to Poseidon. His mother Aethra lay with Aegeus and, the same night, with Poseidon, giving Theseus dual paternity in mythic logic. In one episode on the voyage to Crete, King Minos challenged Theseus's claimed divine father. Minos tossed a ring into the sea and dared Theseus to retrieve it. Theseus dove and returned bearing the ring, and in some versions, a crown given by Amphitrite, evidence of Poseidon's favor. Later, after Theseus returned to Athens and his son Hippolytus rejected Aphrodite's sphere, Theseus prayed to Poseidon, who had granted him 3 curses, to punish Hippolytus. Poseidon sent a bull from the sea that terrified Hippolytus's horses. The chariot crashed and Hippolytus died, a cautionary tale about the weight of divine favors and the costs of rash paternal oaths. In the Trojan War mythology, Poseidon takes the Achaean side, partly out of resentment against Troy due to Laomedon's injustice. In Homer's Iliad, he enters the battle to hearten the Greeks when they are pressed, though he yields when Zeus asserts his authority. In Book 20, Poseidon saves Aeneas from Achilles despite his pro-Greek stance, because fate has marked Aeneas's line for future rule. The gods are bound by destiny even when their preferences run otherwise. Elsewhere in epic traditions, Poseidon's power over the sea makes him both an ally and an obstacle, depending on a hero's conduct and the justice of his cause. In the Odyssey, Poseidon's role is decisive. Odysseus blinds Polyphemus to escape the Cyclopes' cave. Polyphemus then calls on his father Poseidon for vengeance. Poseidon delays Odysseus for years with storms and wrecks, punishes crews that offend cosmic order, and finally exacts a public sign against the Phaeacians who ferry Odysseus home. As their ship returns to harbor after conveying Odysseus, Poseidon turns it to stone and, in some accounts, threatens to close their port, fulfilling a prophecy known to King Alcinous. Only when Odysseus appeases Poseidon, most notably in later interpretations by traveling inland to plant an oar where people do not know the sea, does the enmity abate. Poseidon also appears in the giant war mythic cycle. In the Gigantomachy, he defeats the giant Polyphemus by tearing up a fragment of the island of Kos and hurling it. The rock becomes the island of Nissyros. This detail is typical of Greek etiologies, which link landscape features to divine actions. The Aloadae, his giant sons, also threaten the cosmos. They capture Ares at one point and store him in a bronze jar for over a year before he is freed, and they plan to assault the heavens by stacking Ossa on Pelion. Artemis tricks them into killing each other, ending that threat and sidestepping a conflict where their divine father could not openly defend their impious scheme. Beyond war narratives, Poseidon frequently appears in foundation myths and local legitimations. Many early kings and founders claim descent from him. Neleus of Pylos and Pelias of Iolcus through Tyro, the Phaeacian line through Nausithous. And in some genealogies, major figures of the Greek East, such as Agenor and Belus through Libya, ancestors of Cadmus, Europa, Aegyptus, and Danaus. Cities honor him with temples and games, the Isthmian Games at Corinth, major sanctuaries at Sounion on Attica's Cape, and revered groves such as Onchestos in Boeotia. He receives sacrifices appropriate to a powerful chthonic maritime deity, bulls especially, reflecting both his sea bull aspect and his horse patronage. His connection with horses is pervasive. He sires remarkable horses, Arion, fathers the winged horse Pegasus, and is honored by chariot racing cultures. Some myths credit him with creating the first horse, while Athena provides the bridle and the art of taming. Poseidon's relations with other Olympians range from rivalry to cooperation. With Athena, he is both competitor and co-patron, sharing Trojan while losing Athens. With Apollo, he is a work partner under Zeus's punishment, and later a joint adversary of Troy. He quarrels with Zeus at times, but never successfully challenges Zeus's ultimate rule. He assists and restrains heroes according to the norms of Greek reciprocity. Those who honor him or whose fates align with cosmic order may receive timely aid, calmed seas, safe harbors, the raising or lowering of land, while those who affront him, break oaths or harm his offspring, meet reversals at sea and on shore. His earthquakes are not just disasters, they are also, in Greek thought, resets that can reconfigure coastlines, expose or bury ports, and change political fortunes. Two further threads complete his major mythic profile. First, his role in the Minos Cycle reiterates the political dimension of divine justice. A king who seeks legitimacy from the gods must fulfill his promises. The Cretan Bull story anchors a chain of events: Minos' failure, Pasiphae's transgression, the Minotaur, Athenian tribute, and Theseus's eventual triumph, where Poseidon's initial sign, misused, becomes a long-running problem resolved only through heroism and restored cult. Second, the Odyssey's resolution suggests the limits and end states of divine hostility. Even powerful gods can be appeased through acknowledgement of their sphere and ritual duty. Odysseus's inland oar episode, though preserved in later sources, encodes the idea that Poseidon's claims on a seafaring people extend even to those who forget the sea. To complete a life, the wanderer must symbolically recognize the god who opposed him. Poseidon does not have a death or an endpoint in Greek myth. Like other Olympians, he is immortal and continues in cult and story into the classical and Hellenistic periods, and by Roman adaptation as Neptune. In Roman epic, Neptune calms the sea after Juno's storm against Aeneas, acting as the lawful governor of the waters, which aligns with Greek portrayals of him as the authority who can still the elements he otherwise rouses. Across Greek literature and art, he is identified by the trident, the dolphin, the sea bull, and the horse. Across ritual life, by coastal temples, headlands, and games, and across genealogies, by a web of heroes and founders whose stories underpin city identities. Summarized chronologically, Poseidon is born of Cronus and Rhea, either swallowed and later released or hidden at birth. He receives the trident from the Cyclopes, fights beside Zeus in the Titanomachy, and gains the sea in the division of the world. He marries Amphitrite and fathers Triton and others. He also fathers key figures such as Pegasus and Chrysaor through Medusa, Arion through Demeter, Polyphemus through Thusa, Pelias and Neleus through Tyro, the Aloadae through Iphimedia, and, in several lines, Orion, Pelias, and Agenor. He contests for cities, losing Athens to Athena, sharing Trojan, winning the Isthmus at Corinth, and is honored with the Isthmian Games and major sanctuaries. He punishes Troy for Laomedon's deceit, and later aids the Greeks while rescuing Aeneas for destiny. He sends the Cretan Bull, and through Minos' failure, is implicated in events leading to the Minotaur and Theseus's exploits. He proves Theseus's parentage in the ring test, and answers Theseus's destructive curse against Hippolytus. In the Odyssey, he avenges Polyphemus by delaying Odysseus and petrifying the Phaeacian ship. In the Gigantomachy, he crushes Polybotes with the rock that becomes Nisyros. As Earthshaker, he causes quakes and sea upheavals, including the flood of Deucalion, and his cult absorbs and explains real disasters in Greek memory. In all roles, he embodies the sea's double character and the political and natural forces it symbolizes: power to found and power to overturn, to grant passage and to bar it, to stabilize land and to shake it. That is the arc of Poseidon's story as preserved in myth and cult, from threatened infancy to cosmic sovereign of the sea, from city contests to sea lord of a maritime civilization, and from progenitor of heroes to adversary and arbiter in the great epics. His end is not an ending but an ongoing presence, a standing power whose favor or anger is decisive wherever Greeks sailed, built harbors, swore oaths by the sea, and raced horses in his honor.